Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm your host, Ali, the manager at Enlighteens Education. So the past few weeks, we talked about computer science, non-STEM, and business majors. So tonight, let's talk about healthcare majors. What exactly majors fall under healthcare, and what can high school students do to prepare their profiles? So before we start the webinar, let me introduce a little bit about Enlighteens and what we do. We are a group of educators who have many years of experience in college admissions consulting and working with families in the Bay Area and beyond. Enlighteens Education offers personalized college planning services and strengths-based mentoring approach to identify each student's character, interests, strengths, opportunities, and discover a unique education path to realize their long-term goals. This includes guiding families through the confusing college applications process, course selection, extracurricular activities, summer planning, and test prep. Our offices in Cupertino and Pleasanton are home to our full-time consultants and support staffs with an average of 8 years of experience. Our years of teamwork also let us offer stability and a high level of synergy. So there are two parts of tonight's webinar. First part is Daniel's presentation. The second part is Q&A. Let me give the stage to Daniel and get started.
All right, thanks, Ali. Let me go ahead and go back a little bit here. Just introduce myself for anyone who's unfamiliar with who I am. So my name's Daniel. I did graduate from Lindbergh High School in San Jose, California. In high school, I was involved mostly with leadership. So I was a student body, music and marching band, sports, football, work experience. I worked at AMC Theaters in Saratoga. Clubs, volunteering, clubs, like homeless shelter clubs, also on campus clubs and Link Crew, especially volunteering. Yeah, so I did like AIDS Walk and I did some political campaign stuff and received awards for my activities throughout high school. Went to UC Irvine, San Jose State, studied anthropology and sociology. Volunteered to teach English overseas while I was in undergrad in college. So I made it my goal to come back and get my master's in TESOL, where I currently teach college level ESL. So yeah, I do also test prep, ESL, and all the college essays and anything related to English, basically. So that's kind of my background, and you can see that's kind of the approach I have when it comes to college preparation, high school experience. Definitely promoting a variety of activities and focusing on the various parts of student personalities is what I mean, right? Because we know now it's not just about GPA. We know that if you study all day, every day, and you have the highest scores, that doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't get you into the schools that you want to go to. So you really have to start reaching out and look at the other things you can do to add to your profile. And that's the approach that we have tonight when we're talking about healthcare. Okay, so here's our agenda. So first part, we'll talk about majors and programs. Which majors are we going to talk about today, right? And which schools are the best fits for which majors. I'll also talk about med school, talk about undergrad majors and how that leads into med school and kind of like which ones would be best for that. Section 2, high school. So what students can do in high school to help prepare their college profiles for a healthcare related major or career. And then beyond academics, what can you do outside of the classroom while you're in high school? What should you do in terms of extracurriculars or work experience even, or internships and summers, things like that. And then I do have two examples of successful students, case studies to share with you, a little bit of variety between the two. So I wanted to tell you about their situations and what I think worked best for them, even though they may or may not have been the most prepared when they set their mind to healthcare. Both of those students, I didn't really meet them until, let's see, like 11th grade, like 10th or 11th grade. So of course, the earlier the better, right? Because that means we can help plan the entire 4 years and all the summers, all the classes. All right, let's get started. Majors and programs. When I ask students, like, what do you want to study? They usually give me some sort of name of a class. This is especially true for business majors, right? Like, what do you want to study? Business. Okay. What do you want to science? What do you want to study? Like science, right? Biology. What about biology? Like why biology? There's a lot of things related to biology. Like, do you want to do marine biology? Do you want to do research? Do you want to be a surgeon? Like there are so many things you can do with biology. It's like the same thing when people say, I like English. Like, oh, what kind of English do you like? Do you like poetry? Do you like fiction, nonfiction? So most popular majors, you can see this is the list. Most popular majors of students who are preparing for med school. So at the top, you can see definitely biology. So anything like STEM, like straight up science, biochemistry, biophysics, molecular biology. Psychology is also a common one. A lot of students enjoy that. Chemistry, nursing, and then any like health medical preparation, preparatory programs, biomedical engineering. But you can see three on this list. We still have English, econ, and history. And so it might sound weird, to think of a non-STEM major getting ready for med school, but there's actually a really big benefit of that, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Acceptance rates by majors. All right. So when we look at, by the way, these are undergraduate majors applying to med school. Right. If you look at the acceptance rate, the highest is actually humanities majors. Yeah, we have physical science, we have biological sciences, health sciences, actually one of the lowest, right? But the total average is just a little bit about 40, 41, 42, but humanities closer to 50%, closer to 50%. And then average GPA by major, humanities, not necessarily the highest GPA of med school applicants. Social sciences actually, right, and health sciences lower. There are a lot of things we can try to take away from this, but of course, numbers and statistics, they can be misinterpreted. But what we can see, though, right, just based on the numbers we do see, yeah, just at face value, GPA doesn't seem like it's the major factor here either, right? Because it's not like they have the highest GPA of all the majors here. So why do they have the highest acceptance rate for med school? And then if we put them side by side with the MCAT, their average MCAT scores, right? Acceptance rate is the kind of like bright green line that we see here, blue. The acceptance rate is highest again for humanities, and their average MCAT's actually not bad, right? Math is the highest, physical science higher, and the humanities actually third place here. So more about the MCAT, and in order to prepare for the MCAT or to do well in the MCAT, you don't just need science skills. You need a lot of other reasoning, logical, and math skills as well. So, a lot of math students kind of do well in the MCAT. So we can see that acceptance rate, MCAT. So yeah, it's going to be more about your MCAT, and your major can help you prepare for that because that's the kind of mindset and approach that you have already, coming into the MCAT. But there are a couple more things we can try to take away from this. Humanities majors are more rare in the admissions process. Not as many humanities majors are applying for med school, or just straight to med school, as compared to STEM undergraduate majors, because they already have decided, yeah, I want to become a doctor, right? I want to do this, I want to do that. Humanities majors read a lot more, so they probably read better. And that means their verbal reasoning scores are probably higher as a result, because they're practicing this in their major. And because they're reading a lot, they're writing a lot, and so humanities majors probably write better too. A lot of the application process is based on writing ability. This is true for high schoolers preparing for undergrad, your personal statement, your optional essays, your secondary essays, right? All these kind of things. And also communication skills. Keep in mind interviews, especially same thing for high schoolers who are applying for top ranked schools, have optional interviews. Students who study humanities are going to be a little bit more prepared for that usually. Humanities majors are less likely to have classes graded on a curve, such as most science classes. And since their classes are, quote unquote, easier on average, they probably spend less time on their studies and have more time to do other things, interesting things outside of the classroom. So the idea here is we all have the same amount of time, right? We all have 24 hours a day. If I'm going to spend most of my time on homework and keeping my grade high, and I have to spend more time because my classes take more time or they're harder to me or whatever the reason, right? I don't have enough time left in that day to do interesting things. So again, take a look at all these four factors, especially since number one, right, humanities majors are probably more rare in the admissions process. This is kind of just how you can stand out. It's true that I try to apply to high school students as well. I always try to remind them, how many high schools do we have, not just in the state, but in the country or in the world? How many clubs are there in every high school? So yeah, if you're the president of a club versus, you got a job at this place or internship at this school, which one's going to help you stand out more? Even though you may hear a lot of things about like, oh, my friends are doing leadership, my friends. Yeah, but right, again, how do you stand out? It's a numbers game at the end of the day. So humanities majors probably are winning this numbers game here. More time to do interesting things outside the classroom. The fifth one, and probably the most interesting one, humanities majors probably have a stronger defined purpose for going to med school. There's a reason that they probably changed their path, their educational path, their academic path. Now, I'm not saying if you want to be a surgeon or a doctor, pick humanities and then go into the medical field, because this bullet point is not going to really work for you, right? Especially if you already had decided to go to humanities and then to med school. But if you have a strong defined purpose for going to med school, this could happen in college, this could happen in high school, or whatever. But the idea is you need to have a real good, genuine, and passionate reason for going, because schools will ask you this: why medicine? Right? This is the same thing as like this why us, why major essays. So yeah, why? Why do you want to study medicine? Why do you want to become a doctor? And this is something I ask my high schoolers. Yeah, why? Why? Oh, because my parents told me to, or I'm the best in bio, or because my parents and their parents and the whole family line, they were all doctors. Okay, but that's not a good reason for a school to admit you, right? Just because you have to keep up your family line or something, right? So we have to find a really compelling, a unique story, some sort of reasonable reason, lack of a better term, for studying medicine. And humanities majors, if they have this life experience throughout undergraduate, and then probably something happened to them, this aha moment or this influential life event moment, that's probably very compelling for the reason they want to switch over to medicine. So this is what we're trying to find in our high school students then. If you're going to pick a STEM or bio related undergrad major, then you have to answer that question even earlier. You have to find that answer while you're in high school. Like, why medicine? Why medicine? Yes, yeah, you want to grow up and be a doctor and save lives, but yeah, like that's it. That is the job description. We need to find something that can separate more. Right? Again, numbers game. How many people are going to say they want to help people? They all want to help people. That's what healthcare is. Right? What else? What else can you say? Because can you get the admissions officers, the readers, to remember your paper? Because you can say all the right things, but if it's what most people say, then yeah, maybe it's not getting their attention. Now, speaking of attention, right, there's also overlooked majors. We put a lot of our attention in those bio and all those like chemistry and STEM related majors. But what about, if we think about healthcare as an entire industry, and just like I remind my students who want to study business, if you look at a company is not just all managers, right, and all CEOs. You still need like human resources. You still need accountants, right? You still need, it's a microcosm, it's a small society of all kinds of skills and talents. So this is the same for the healthcare industry. You still need managers and admin, right? Team players, and even IT. So administration and management, clinical research, medical records, community health and preventative medicine. These are all overlooked majors. Pharmaceutical marketing and management. A lot of students, I remind them like, oh, do you want to do pharmacy? Like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Go to pharmacy school and be a pharmacist. Public health, especially public health policy. If you are really interested in helping a large number of people all at once, what about like public health? And maybe if you enjoy politics, speech and debate, some sort of like decision-making process, government, then you might be interested in this. Medical computer specialist, medical informatics, right? Dietetics and nutrition. So there are a lot of different majors that are also very, very interesting. So I highlighted medical informatics just to remind us that, yeah, let's say you have a student who's really interested in bio and CS and can't really decide. Actually, I had a couple of students like this before. It's like, oh, why do you like bio? Why do you like CS? It's like, oh, I wish I could do both. Well, maybe you can. Right? Medical informatics. If you look at the San Francisco Bay Area average salary for healthcare informatics, right, 120,000 a year. It's not like salary or money is an issue here. And nationwide, definitely higher just because it's that stuff. But yeah, 120,000 an hour a year is not bad, and that's just the average. So depending on, of course, like where you go, where you find a job, which company you join, things like that, we can see it goes up to close to 300,000. So it's there. Right? All the possibilities are there. If you like CS as well as bio. Yeah. So that's another thing is I just remind students, it's not about having to pick one thing And I think this is because of high school, right? In high school, we have to pick 7 classes every year that it has to be this class. And we think of that each class is completely separate from other classes, but that's not true, right? All of these together, all these different topics and classes, they add together to teach you how to become a well-rounded individual. So the skills that you learn in, let's say, an elective class, the skills that you learn in your history classes and English and STEM, math, all these skills put together, they make who you are as a complete person. But I think, especially, even when I was younger, we just think of them as separate things. It's like, oh, because I don't like my English teacher, or I don't like poetry, I don't like English in general. Okay, so maybe sometimes like, oh, I don't like science. Like, why? Is it just because you didn't like chemistry? Maybe you like physics. Maybe you like bio. Maybe you like bioinformatics. So we have to kind of encourage our students to keep exploring, dig deeper. Majors are not the same as the topics that you learn in high school, and there are a lot of things you can learn that aren't even offered in high school. So I'll talk about that too, right? Things that you can do to enrich your academics if your high school doesn't offer what you're interested in. Special programs. So it's also a reminder that colleges offer these combined degree programs. So remember, you can get your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorates, but there are like BA or BS MD programs that you can apply to. And this is also an idea, a viable path for some students who are able to identify their interest in healthcare at an earlier point in high school, most likely, so that they have more time to carefully plan for their path here to prepare for such a kind of competitive combined degree program. So these are just some common schools, more of the popular names that have BA/MD programs available to high school students. So when they're applying, they can choose this, although they probably still need to pass, the MCAT. But Boston University, Case Western, Drexel, Indiana, Northwestern, Stony Brook, UConn, U Rochester, right? These are great schools just in general, but they also have this combined degree program for students who are very, very serious. They know exactly what they want to do. And then these are some other popular ones that may have programs that are available to undergraduates once they're already once they're already accepted to college. So then you can apply for this MD program in addition to your bachelor's. So maybe Loyola University, right, in Chicago, Rutgers, Temple, Tulane, even like UC Riverside Public School, University of Florida. This is not a complete list, of course. These are just some of the more popular schools on this list. But yeah, there are a lot of programs, interesting programs out there if you're really, really serious and you know exactly your end goal, and you want to go from high school to your end goal of getting your MD. I wanted to shine the spotlight on a local school here in the Bay Area, University of the Pacific. Maybe you are interested in something related to dentistry. So keep in mind that you also have these pre-programs. At UOP, UOP offers 3 admission pathways within the Pre-Dental Advantage program, which allow you to earn an undergraduate degree, in some cases an accelerated timeline, and then upon successful completion, guarantee an interview for our Doctor of Dental Surgery degree program. Okay, so this is basically their version of a combined degree pathway. So the most rigorous one would be their 2+3 program. So I'm not going to read everything, but basically the idea is, right, you take 2 years to finish your general ed undergrad requirements, and plus the other 3 years at their other school, their other campus, to work on your other part of your degree. But you can see you have to have 3.25 or higher. Whereas if you opt for, this is a total of 5 years, right, 2+3. If you opt for the 3+3, you can slow it down a little bit, take an extra year, and then you have to make sure your GPA is above 3.15. Or a 4+3, so more like a typical 7-year program, but in this case, right, keep it above a 3.05 GPA. So yeah, there are, again, lots of different pathways out there, especially if your student maybe wasn't even familiar with this idea of a combined degree pathway, which gives a little bit more of a secure feeling, kind of like job security, right? So that means they can aim for this as a goal, but they're going to want to make sure they do a lot of things to prepare their profile for something competitive like this. Like I mentioned, these are more competitive. There are some less competitive options as well. For example, there's a school in the East Coast. Actually sent quite a few students there. Actually, there's this one family that I was working with. I think all their kids wanted to go there. So their average GPA is actually just a 3.51 for incoming freshmen, and they produce graduates who make a median annual income of 113,000 just 10 years after enrolling. Right, and that's just the median income. They also offer accelerated programs, 32 to 37 months for accelerated, or a fast track, even faster, 15 through 24 months. And you can see their majors mostly healthcare. So yeah, they have nursing, dental hygiene, these kind of things. I also remind my students, don't forget about like anesthesiology. But the students I worked with most recently, they went there for pharmacy. It's a great plan, especially for students who have an idea of what they want to do after graduation. They know that they want to do pharmacy or they want to do something like healthcare related, but maybe like their profile wasn't as strong. In fact, I think I think they had like a 3.8 or something like that. But yeah, and they actually didn't have too many things that are related to healthcare in terms of extracurriculars. So it kind of just depends. This is why we want to always talk to each student, figure out each student's like specific case. The context of each case is different. We have to think about what are your extracurriculars, what are the classes that you've taken already, test scores, GPA, of course, AP scores, things like that, and we can try to figure out which strategy would work best for you. Are you focused on like post college? Are you focused on getting a high paying job? Are you focused on getting into a high ranked school? Are you focused on getting the major instead of the school, or the school instead of the majors? A lot of things we can talk about. So that will come to when we talk about like school lists during the summers. But yeah, these are just ideas, right? A lot of different ideas out there. I think sometimes students think like, oh, my GPA is not good enough for like a top 30 school, and like that's it. Like I'm not going to college. Like, no, there are so many great things you could do, and after all, your bachelor's is not the end of everything, right? Like go get your master's after that. Go get doctorates. Okay, so high school. What to do in high school, especially for healthcare students. This is what I've noticed over the years. Colleges know what the field is, what the industry is, right? A lot of high school students, it's just probably because of the way that we're taught to write essays at school. Very summary style writing, analytical, but not very personal, not very reflective. So what usually happens, especially for STEM oriented students, they're very analytical, right? They're very, very strong analytical skills. And what happens sometimes is these essays become like talking about science. Schools know, right? Schools know what science is. Schools know what they offer. Schools know the popularity of their programs, the ranking, and all that stuff. So we really need to focus on you. That's why they're called the personal statement. And what kind of personality or types of personalities would be best for someone working in healthcare? Think about the last time you talked to a nurse or a doctor. What did you enjoy about the interaction that you had with that person? So we have to demonstrate things like empathy. And this is actually something that you can do. So the idea here is demonstrate your non-academic skills through academics if possible. Right? And actually, yes, it is possible because the classes that you take will showcase that. So if you take something like psychology that showcases maybe empathy or interpersonal understanding, right? You better understand why people think what they think and do what they do as a result. Communication skills can be shown through speech and debate. Application of knowledge, or just like concepts and theories, can be shown through your performance in like STEM, math, science. Your ability to comprehend and analyze information, that would be proven best in your English classes. So sometimes, students think like, oh, I'm going to do STEM, so English doesn't matter. I'm just going to take like regular English all 4 years. Well, what about AP Lit, AP Lit? What do you practice there that can actually help you? What kind of skills can translate into a healthcare career? So this is why the rigor of a high schooler's classes, course selection is really, really important, really, really important to schools, because they want you to see that you're challenging yourself with the resources available to you, first of all. But second of all, they're hoping that you're going to develop those skills at a college level, which is why AP classes, right? Honors, AP classes especially. And then so if we continue that mindset, we want to focus on developing college level skills then that means having more college level courses on your transcript would be even stronger as a high school applicant. So yes, all classes in high school matter then, right? All the classes matter. You have to do well in all your classes. So what kind of classes, especially for healthcare, especially to focus on, because maybe you can't get all the classes that you wanted to get. Anatomy and physiology, of course, computer applications, if you're interested in more informatics or the CS side of things, food and nutrition, foreign language is actually really interesting, something important because it shows your ability to understand like other cultures, languages as well. So maybe this, ability to interact with diverse patients, diverse just others, teammates, team members, etc. Healthcare classes, nursing, safety and first aid is actually really important too, because this is the thing that I tell basically all my high school students. You can learn how to do something, but that's what everyone is doing. You're in school to learn. So if you can learn to do something and do it while you're learning it, and what else can colleges ask for, really? So if you want to learn about healthcare and helping people, right, and saving lives, can you do it? Can you get your CPR license? Can you start saving lives now? Why not? All right. And PLTW courses, Project Lead the Way. Not every high school has this, but if your high school does, definitely take a look at the course sequence that they offer. For example, biomedical sciences, they also have like CS and some other tracks. But principles of biomedical science, human body systems, medical interventions, biomedical innovation. This is kind of a standardized curriculum among PLTW campuses. So this is something that colleges are familiar with, and they would understand the kind of material that you learn in these courses. PLTW is what should I say? Like it's recognized and it's respected, I guess I could say. I've had students who did PLTW courses. Her GPA was not, I think it was like 3.6, 3.7. But she still got into USC, right? She got into USC for a business related major because of her PLTW background, experience. This is something really, really interesting. Okay, so think about that. So I'm just talking about like resources. Importance of AP tests. You've heard recent news, no more SAT subject tests. So that means we need to focus on AP tests. This is just kind of an example of probably the priority of AP tests to focus on if you are healthcare. So definitely biology, chemistry, environmental science. So if you want to do informatics, probably the CS related classes. Statistics, since in healthcare you're looking at large sample sizes, but anything math really, right? Even calculus. Psychology would be good just for the same reasons I mentioned earlier for taking psychology in general. AP Lit and Lang would also be good because of the thing I said about what you can demonstrate through your competency in English related classes, and honestly just AP anything, right? All this college level stuff. So understanding like history, government especially. If you're going to be more like a public health policy, something that has to do more like government and politics, understanding the bases and just how history and government and the democratic republic system works in general, right? This is really important to know if you're going to go into something like that too. Technically, you just want to load up on AP tests. All right, outside of high school, this is something I mentioned earlier. Remember I said rigor is important. So if you're looking for, colleges are looking for honors level courses, AP level courses, and beyond that, which is be college level courses. So concurrent or dual enrollment and also online college courses. Look at your local community colleges. Look at pre-college summer courses, programs. BYU or Coursera, anything that's like online, maybe you're self-paced. I've had students ask me like, oh, I'm stuck at home, not really doing anything during the second semester. Well, fill up your time with these self-paced courses then. Oh, I don't have any plans for summer. Okay, then take a class, take a course. Your GPA, you got some B's and C's. Take some college level courses. They're treated as weighted GPA. Raise your GPA back up. Something like that. It's never too late. It's never too late. I've had students come to me in 11th grade, and it's like, oh, what should I do? I only have one summer left. Like, well, let's see. Let's see where, what's the weakest part of your profile, or let's see what you're trying to aim for in terms of like your major. So then, instead of raising your weaknesses, maybe we should just focus on your strengths, right? Because even if you're well balanced and you're not particularly great at any one thing, that could also hurt. But that is also a strategy. We just have to think about which schools. If that's more like a liberal arts program, liberal arts school. If that's the type of student you are, then you want to make sure you're applying to schools that match the same kind of educational philosophy. So if you're a very well-rounded student, then maybe apply to a school that focuses on well-rounded education. All right, beyond academics then. I always tell my students this too. Think of tiered recognition. A lot of high schoolers, especially, they probably have never looked at what the college application actually looks like. So how many essays do I have to write? How many words are allowed in each response? Where do I list my activities and awards and achievements, and how many words do I have to describe them? How many characters do I have? Basically, how much space? What do they need to know about each one? So think about a tier system. The colleges will ask you to list your awards, especially, and are they international award, national award, state award, local award, regional award? Right, so if you get something from your school, that's just your school. If you get something from like CCS, that's gonna be your regional or state. If you're getting like something like a USACO or USABO here, like, hey, maybe like national, maybe even some international awards. So think about tiered systems. This is, again, a lot of students come to me and they tell me like, oh yeah, my friends are volunteering a lot, right? Or like my parents are telling me to volunteer a lot. Okay, but what is the end goal here? What are you going to be able to achieve with that volunteering versus could you spend that time doing something else? This is opportunity cost. So can I spend that time chasing another goal that will be recognized at a higher level? And higher level, I mean like beyond the school level, beyond the state level, beyond the national level. So trying to aim for higher and higher tiers of awards and activities, right? Involvement. Some students, they come to me and like, oh yeah, I have a lot of volunteering. I spent like hundreds of hours volunteering. Okay, what did you do? Oh, I helped like make these things. Okay, what do you want to study? I want to study CS. Okay, right? It's like, oh, should I keep doing volunteering or should I do more CS stuff? Like, well, I think you know the answer, right? Volunteering doesn't necessarily help if it doesn't match your profile, match your major. All right, clubs. So something for healthcare, probably like HOSA, so Future Health Professionals, Doctors Without Borders, Anatomy Club, Biology Club, or whatever kind of pre-med club, any sort of like medicine, right? Like medical related clubs that you have at your school. If you don't have one, you can think about creating one. But my personal philosophy is like, yeah, clubs they're good, but they're not like just because you have them, you're entitled to getting into schools, right? Definitely not. You still need to have other things beyond clubs. In fact, the two case studies I'm going to talk about, they had minor club involvement, let's say. Okay, so yeah, clubs are not like everything. Ideas for summers, summer programs, pre-college immersion in courses, research opportunities. This is actually really important. I'm going to talk about that more in the case studies, but research opportunities, really important. Internships and work experience. The bottom three, right, are going to be more interesting to colleges than the top two. Again, it's kind of like volunteering. If you volunteer, I usually tell students, imagine you're just giving up your time, because that's really what you're volunteering, right? Your body, if you're going to help them do things physically, your time. But you're not necessarily utilizing your talent, your skills. You're not like making something, doing something. So if you are able to, especially related to your major, right, try to find things you can do. So that's why the bottom three are more interesting. Research, you're putting your academic expertise and knowledge to use, right? Work experience. Sure, it doesn't have to be a job related to your major, but maybe if you can, that would be great. I have a student who wants to study business later, and he's helping a company in another state work on their marketing and advertising presence, their digital, their online presence, right? Using social media like TikTok to create advertisements for them. Like, yeah, that's it right there. That's what I'm talking about. So the only difference between internship and work experience is if you're getting paid or not. Okay, so if you get paid, great, it's work. Okay, so the case studies I want to talk about here. 2 students. First one, 4.04 weighted GPA, 35 ACT after some prolonged practice, let's say. And also, this student was stuck on the SAT for a while, felt like a ceiling. And I recommended to him, like, hey, you just try ACT, right? You're a good reader. That rewards good readers. So let's try that. And talked about what kind of questions to expect and the kind of slight differences between SAT and ACT. He took a practice test or two, but on his first try, he got a 35 composite. By the way, this student came to me, I think, before 11th grade, right? So the summer before 11th grade. So we only had 2 summers, and we had 11th grade, and then the first half of 12th grade, right? Really should just think about how to help advise, like activities and things to do. So subject tests, when they existed, math 2, 800, biology 760. So notice not 780, not 800, right? 760. AP test, Chinese 5, world history 5, biology 5, calc AB 4, CSA 4. Okay, so plenty of AP tests, high AP test scores. So for honors, he was an AP scholar with distinction. Presidential Volunteer Service Award, bronze. Okay, so he did get hours for volunteering. Lifeguard in CPR. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. This student enjoyed swimming, so he came to us with already good swimming background, like water polo and just swimming ability in general, right? So the natural progression was, hey, you enjoy swimming, you enjoy healthcare, you enjoy helping people, saving lives. That's what lifeguards do, right? So go be a lifeguard, get your CPR license certificate. And he worked as a lifeguard over the summer before 12th grade. So activities, work experience, lifeguard. Also volunteered in ER, kind of shadowing and helping with like day-to-day stuff. But he had this really interesting moment and experience while he was there that we wrote about in his essay that showcased his ability to interact with patients, socially, and also the empathy and caring for patients, especially. It's a very genuine story. But the idea here is, if he had not been at that hospital or been involved in that position, he wouldn't have had that opportunity, to experience that and then to write about that. So a lot of this is sometimes students will just like, I'm not interested in that, right? But the idea is just try. You never know. And you might not be interested in that or your idea of that, but once you get involved with it, you might start seeing things from a different perspective. And also I tell my students like, you don't know what major you want, that's fine. But do you know what majors you don't want? Think about the classes that you don't like at school. And then we have to have the conversation about like, well, do you not like the subject, or you just don't like your teacher, right? Those are different things. But then you also have to think about, well, what don't you like about it, but what do you like about it? And what are the things that you can try to, separate from each other? What I'm saying is he wanted to showcase he wanted to do healthcare because he wanted to help people, but his position at the volunteering thing wasn't allowing him to do that. So he put himself in positions to do that. So yeah, that was really beneficial. Internship, assistant optician, cultural liaison for UC Berkeley Public Health, interaction with faculty there, professors, and community manager for Discord. This is also really, really important. This is something that maybe most, even parents or maybe people don't really think about or consider. Discord's really, really popular now, right? And he was a community manager for his Discord at his high school. And this is something I wanted to make sure that we did not overlook, because he spent a lot of time doing this. I think there's this stigma, right, when it comes to anything related to video games or technology or something that's not related directly to your major. That doesn't mean you can't talk about it, because again, there are transferable skills and experiences that you can carry. So for a lot of his hours, he spent managing this online community for his high school, and he was able to bring people together through shared interests, and that happened to be video games. But he was able to create a positive community like that, and that's something we focused, because that's what you want to do. You want this positive community for your patients in healthcare. So major public policy studies, and the result is Vanderbilt. Right, current school is Vanderbilt. All right, second example I want to talk about here: 3.64 weighted GPA. Okay, so this time we got lower GPA. ACT, so let's see. Yeah, English was not her first language. So she came around, I think it was middle school. So that meant her reading and her grammar were pretty weak. And this is something I helped with her. I helped her with that. Let's see. I think I met her like maybe in her 10th grade, I think. And we focused really hard on her reading because of her vocabulary, right? And her reading. Her reading speed gradually improved, and that was good because ACT requires that. But grammar, definitely grammar. A lot of high schools don't teach, right, like punctuation rules and things like that. And yeah, by the way, she went to a very, very popular and very, very competitive, high school in the South Bay. So ACT and GPA were very, very competitive at her school. Subject test, math 2, 800 again. Biology 780, Chinese 800. AP tests, US History 4, Psych 4, Biology 5, right? We're seeing some common themes here, and music theory because she loved marching band. She loved music, and that was great. Right, so honors, marching band, orchestra, section leader, and that was pretty much it. And that was the thing that she was most worried about. Like, I don't actually have that many activities. Because when I met her, yeah, she loved marching band. She spent all her basically free time focused on music and her section of her instrument, and she loved it. Right, she loved music. And I asked her, like, do you want to study music in the future though? Because we still have time, right? It's 10th grade. We can think about this. Do you want to study music in the future? Is that really something you want to do? Is that your career? Is that your passion? Like, not really. Like, oh, okay. And then, but she asked me, should I keep doing marching band? It's like, well, you really love it, right? And it's not going to take that much time. You might as well. You might as well stick with it. She was very, very well rounded. She enjoyed everything, and her intellectual curiosity across disciplines. That was something that we kind of focused upon. So you can start thinking about which schools would be a good fit for a student like that. Her activities. So she didn't have much, but we were able to, she was asking like, oh, should I do this or that? Like my mom thought about this for me. Like I don't really think it's going to be useful, or like I'm not that interested. I don't think I'll even get in. But she was talking about the Stanford pre-collegiate summer program, the big data in bio. And because of her background in bio and math, and also don't forget your letters of rec, right? Both student 1 and student 2 here. Letters of recommendation are really, really important, because think about for all the basically all the private schools, the colleges, they'll look at a college, they'll look at a letter of rec, and that's going to be really, really strong in terms of your chances of getting in or not, because you can speak for yourself, but when this other person is, especially an adult, and speaking for you, that's different. And think about which teachers can do that for you. Sometimes a lot of students actually they ask for a letter of recommendation from a teacher who gave them a good grade. We're like, oh, I have an A in this class, so I'll ask that teacher. But if that teacher doesn't know you, like doesn't really know who you are, outside of just you do well in that class, that subject, that might not be a very interesting or strong letter of recommendation. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So when we talk about identifying your recommenders, who to pick and why. Research assistant at a biomedical company. She was involved with a optics research topic that they had, and she was able to present at a conference because of her work involved. So remember I said like research, right? That's really important. At the end, she was still kind of undecided for her major. She liked biology, but then she also started liking business. And this is another thing, right? I asked her like, oh, wait, hold on. Why business? Like, what is it about business? Like, oh, I just really I like people, I like talking to people, very interactive. And yeah, that was another thing is she had this, when she was at the summer camp, she met people from across the country, across the world, right? Different ethnicities and nationalities all coming together. And it was very, very interesting for her to experience this because she herself had felt like the newcomer since she had immigrated to America as a teenager. And it completely changed her perspective on kind of identity when she was suddenly the host to all these people who were unfamiliar to the Bay Area. And that just changed her mindset, right? On everything, let's say. Without going into the details. So part of the essay was actually focused on that. Not about STEM, not about biology, right? Not about whatever the major. I've always wanted to study science since I was 4, right? Like probably if you're gonna want to study science, you probably liked it, at a young age. So what are the things that are really personal to you? What are the stories that you can tell that can get the reader's attention and help you stand out from the other applicants? Okay, so she was very undecided. And I gave her the idea of thinking about liberal arts colleges. This is also another very important thing, right? A lot of students, they come and, oh, what school do you want to go to? I don't know, UC, Stanford, right? Like you probably can only list maybe 5 schools that you've heard of just because of osmosis. You heard it through other people. But you have to, do your due diligence here. Look at a lot of schools. Make sure that the school fits you. There's so many factors when we talk about school list. School like class size, right, or location is only just one small thing. What kind of school is it? Research oriented, public, private, liberal arts? So after a long discussion, it kind of sounded like she was probably interested in liberal arts education. I asked her, would you be interested in like an all women's college, and she was kind of hesitant. But then I told her like, well, you still have to go, right? You need to, during your break, your upcoming 1 week break, you need to plan some college visits. Some schools care about demonstrated interest. So she went to visit Wellesley. She fell in love with Wellesley, and she came back and she had her eyes set on Wellesley, and she was really concerned because of she knew what high school she went to. She knew her GPA. She knew her ACT. She knew her extracurricular activities, right? So she knew that her high school was very, very competitive, and she thought like it's just a dream, like I love that school, but maybe it was just the first school that I visited, and that's why I liked it. Maybe I'm not going to get in. There's no way. And I said like, hey, hold on, right? Why not? Why can't it be you though, right? We looked at how many students from her school were accepted to Wellesley last year, or the year before that she applied, I mean. And it was only a handful, only like 5 or 6 students applied and only like 2 or 3 got in. And I said like, wait, that's actually really good though, if you think about it, right? The admissions. Actually, I think only one student got in. I think one got like waitlisted, and I said like, why can't that be you though, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not competing with all the people in your senior class. You're competing with about half. It's an all women's college, and then so you just have to compete with half, and you're just competing with the people who even know Wellesley exists in the first place. Because right, ask how many people in your class even know that Wellesley is a college, that Wellesley exists. And so she agreed to like just don't really mention Wellesley, right, to her other classmates. But she applied, and yeah, unfortunately, she got waitlisted. But she loved it, right? And I said like, yeah, if you love that school, you should apply, and you should keep following up with it, right? Keep going. So we followed up with a letter of continued interest, write that in a special way and talk about certain things. And yeah, long story short, she is at Wellesley now. Okay, so your GPA does not dictate your future, right? Your ACT does not dictate your subject test, your AP test. No one single thing will dictate your future. I've had parents ask me like, "Oh, my student has a 3.9 GPA. That means he's going to be rejected by UC Berkeley automatically, right?" No, no, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. Your profile is an entire profile. It's a holistic profile. Yes, it does matter like if you have maybe certain areas that you're very good at, but it doesn't have to be just academics, is also my point. Right? Maybe it's your interpersonal skills. So if you want to study something that's healthcare related, right, it's gonna have to be think about the career that awaits you. What kind of personality would be best for that? So what kind of personality traits can you show on top of your academics, which is basically standardized? Because if you look at high school graduation requirements or even like college entrance, right, like requirements, they're pretty much standardized. So if you just keep talking about academics in your application, maybe that's not really going to help. So main takeaways, your academic proficiency is absolutely necessary, but healthcare is more than just academics. So highlight your interpersonal and leadership skills. Right? If you have just a lot of bio background, but you don't really have any social activities, that might hurt actually. Demonstrate competencies by doing, not just learning. Hands-on research and experience is vital. I know it's difficult for high schoolers to find such experiences, right? Like, oh, there's no way I can get like an internship, at some hospital. But it's not impossible. There are some things you can do still, and things we can talk about, and also summer programs. Don't forget that just because you apply to a summer program at a university, you go and then that's it. Think about the opportunities, the networking, the faculty that you meet there, right? Why not treat this as a job? In the workforce, right? You network, you continue to network, and you expand your contacts. That's why those summer programs are so competitive. In fact, one of my students, his letter of recommendation wasn't from a high school teacher; it was from a college professor. So imagine how impactful that would be, because how many applicants have just a high school teacher? Well, I don't mean not just high school, but you know what I mean, right? Like a high school regular teacher from high school instead of someone from outside of high school. And then focus on personality strengths and essays and letters of recommendation, so that you're a real person with real interests and hobbies and personality, instead of just I do STEM all day every day, right? If you want to go that path, there is that path as well. I'm just saying it's going to be harder. You're kind of like a uphill battle, So if you want to stand out, there are definitely a lot of different ways to stand out.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing. Hope parents have a better understanding of healthcare majors. And if you have further questions, feel free to contact us. If you want to join our WeChat group that to receive our webinar informations and our videos, feel free to add me, scan my WeChat barcode on the screen. Or if you have future questions, feel free to email or give us a phone call. All right. This is it for today's webinar. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.